Good afternoon, everybody. It's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading on April 15, 2025. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you all for your questions and comments in the last few videos that I've posted. And as you can see, my camera is wavering in and out because it's being intercepted by the criminals. But the last two videos that I posted were from 2019, in case anybody's interested. One of those videos was from the Ella Fraud show. And the reason I say Ella Fraud is because neither one of those are her name. Her first name's not Ella, her last name's not Free. But, it's really interesting, how people utilize names to define who they are, and she was literally free from targeting. So, good for her. So anyway, I shared the testimony of actor Steven Schellenberger. It's actually Steven Schellenberger is his real name, but he shortened it, I guess, for for the business. And I believe he may have lived in Canada. He also created a video about targeting, which is very interesting. It was a little creepy, and actually seeing through his eyes as a targeted person. It was very interesting. And I don't remember the name of it. It was around, I'm going to say that his movie was probably around 2020. It was after this, and I was able to see it on Vimeo, but the last time I looked, I wasn't able to access it because I don't remember the name of it. So that's a really interesting interview with him. And then even more interesting is the one I posted on Michael Large, released from the Abington Hospital, psychiatric fraud, etc., because it's sort of like a roundtable discussion with Romola D and Crystal Shin and a man named Eric. And I don't know who he is because you don't visually see him there. He's like in the background talking about legal issues. And then there's nurse Kim Straub, who I was friendly with. And she, when I moved here in 2019, she and I were discussing getting together and stuff, and then they unalived her. And her testimony, the one that I created on her behalf after she passed away, is on my channel under her name, Kim Straub. So she was being utilized for medical experimentation, and she was also a nurse just like Karen Romero, Goodness 8, who found that they were altering patient records at the hospital. So anyway, what I really want to talk about today is the watch list. What it's like to be placed on a watch list, to be targeted, versus a lot of other things people say who have the misguided belief that they are quote-unquote targeted. That terminology is being thrown around a lot. I've seen it since I entered the community in 2017. There were many people on the calls that wanted attention. They felt that they were targeted because they were homeless. Some of them were, some of them weren't. Some of them just were estranged from family members. They located the targeting community and just kind of got attention that way. Some people had broken up with boyfriends and girlfriends who were harassing them, but they were not on any government watch list. Okay, so there's a huge difference between being targeted when you are listed by a government or intelligence agency such as the DHS, FBI, or Fusion Center for surveillance, monitoring, or some form of non-investigative scrutiny. Because those lists may include people labeled as quote-unquote threats, persons of interest, even those flagged by mistake, or retaliation, revenge. It's very different to be placed on a watch list than to have wealthy parents attempting to covertly control adult children. And this too happens across the country. Even if parents are not wealthy, they may just hold some kind of control, the narcissistic parents controlling over their adult children. And I'll give you the example about Britney Spears and a whole bunch of other people later on in discussing this topic. So when I came onto those calls, there were so many people pretending to be targeted, and they weren't. They just, joined in the conference calls to add some information. Some of them were perpetrators, some of them were gang stalkers, some of them were paid agents, infiltrators, and some of them were just lonely people, or they were never placed on any kind of a formal list or anything, and just found the community and decided to join in and offer information. So some of the characteristics of actually being placed on a watch list to be targeted, like a blacklist, like the McCarthy's blacklist, is a covert monitoring. And by that is all of your communications, all of your movements, all of your associations might be monitored. Everything that you do is being watched, controlled, changed, infiltrated. Then there's the community harassment, also known as, what targeted individuals experience on a regular basis. The organized stalking, the sabotage, the slander campaign, the defamation spread in communities, the lies, strange interference with electronics, the third-party interference, losing hours of your surveillance footage. Third-party interference, you'll see it across your TV screen or on your phone. Phone calls are disconnected. You'll hear clicks in your phone that are being disconnected from others. They'll pretend that they're you. They'll send emails to your clients list and spread slanderous lies and stuff about you. The community members engage in very harassing behaviors, like leaving poopy diapers in front of your mailbox, putting up a do sign pointing towards your home on Halloween, throwing dead animals into your mailbox or on your driveway, killing kittens, 2-month-old kittens, all kinds of that. You could just look on my channel under evidence and you can find all the kinds of stuff that these criminals do, including damaging your trees and stuff. Also, when you're really placed on a watch list to be targeted, the blacklisting, this blacklisting of your jobs, your housing, your health care. You can't get legal support. If you get legal support, it will be covertly sabotaged. At the last minute, they won't come through for you. They'll waste your money, not help you. Or when they set up an appointment with you, they will not be available at all. They will not be representing your interests. With regard to housing, they'll blacklist you to local realtors like they've done here. And they did it in New Jersey, and I was able to prove it when my ethical real estate agent, who actually sold 52 Sutton Drive, Manalapan, placed another realtor on speakerphone telling my agent that she couldn't sell my house for more than $500,000. So I had her repeat that to me directly on the phone. She didn't know I was listening. And she told my agent out loud about what my house could and couldn't sell for. And she hung up on me when I told her that I was the homeowner. There's no due process. When a person is unaware that they're on the list, there's no official recourse or transparent way to challenge it, meaning you file FOIA requests and they come back as, like with my favorite Bureau of Investigation, well, we can't confirm or deny that you're on any list in the name of national security. Okay. You know how that goes. I'm sure you've received those letters too. You try to fight issues in court, and it's a kangaroo court. Even the judge is involved. The judge doesn't even understand a word that you're saying because you and the judge don't speak the same language. Then you've got state and contractor involvement, and this is for plausible deniability. It's usually through the fusion centers, private security firms, InfraGard, community policing initiatives, and we've mentioned so many of them on my channel. In addition to the flock surveillance, cameras that are everywhere that police can infiltrate, the Ring cameras, which they're not allowed to have access to anymore, but they still do, etc. So this is when you're placed on a watch list under the FBI, the NSA, the CIA, real watch listed people to be tormented for the rest of your lives. Now the difference is, there are a lot of parents out there, narcissistic, wealthy families. They attempt to control their adult children. Some wealthy parents use financial leverage, emotional manipulation, or social influence to control life choices of their adult children, including their career, relationships, and beliefs. And something similar happened to Jessica Thomaston, who is still being held against her will. She is a PhD chemist, and her mother has always been jealous of her. And it was her mother that Baker acted her. Lied. She did the same thing to her own mother, the grandmother, I found out. So her mother is very narcissistic, and she likes to control people around her. And when she has no more use for them, she wants to get rid of them through fraudulent practices. So some of the common characteristics of wealthy parents attempting to control adult children are: they pull the financial strings. There are threats to cut off money, inheritance, or housing unless the child complies. Sometimes they'll try to do the same thing if there are grandchildren involved. Then they'll try to take the children away from the biological mother. And that was in the news a year or so ago. And the name is escaping me right now. Hopefully it'll come to me later, where this did in fact happen. This happened in New Jersey. The grandparents, a state New Jersey trooper in Monroe, New Jersey, found out that his son had fathered a child, of course out of wedlock. And he found out because the mother decided after 5 years or whatever, 6 years, she was going to come forward and try to have a relationship with the biological father, who turned out to be a psychopath, narcissist. And then what happened was, the grandparents decided they wanted to take control of the situation. They didn't want their son to pay child support. Oh no, they had the strings to pull, the financial strings, the emotional strings. They had all the friends in all the right places, all the judges and stuff. They stole that boy away from his loving biological mom after 6 years. And then what happened? Because they were so disgusting, they wanted to steal that child away from the mother. I guess they wanted to keep it a secret too from their friends, that, you know, my son, he wasn't doing the right thing, but we will, by stealing that little boy away. Well, their son ended up abusing that boy to the point where he ended up dying a very disgusting, slow, painful death, because that piece of crap son of theirs decided he was going to place that little 6-year-old boy on a treadmill and ramp up the speed so that that little boy could hardly keep up. His heart was pumping, 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 pumping. He fell off that piece of fuck, put the little boy back on the treadmill, amped it up again, and then bit him in the head. Bit him in the head. And then when they finally leave, the little boy's trailing behind him. He finally gets taken to the hospital. He's vomiting, everything. And then he dies. Fortunately, the gym had security cameras, caught it all on camera. So that piece of crap is in prison now. So this is what happens when wealthy parents attempt to control adult children. It never works out well. They block access. Sometimes they'll block access to lawyers, therapists, or partners who empower the adult child. Sometimes they'll hire a private investigator, for surveillance and stuff, or therapists to gather intelligence information to steer their decisions. Sometimes that happens, not always. It depends on how a parent wants to get involved and how that child is able to fight back. Then they, of course, depending on who they're associated with, they may have a network of other elite people, who have influence, money, or whatever. They might have some private influence with law enforcement institutions or the court to be able to manipulate the situation behind the scenes. So the takeaway is the differences between government targeting watch list and controlling wealthy parents, and I'll give you some examples after this, is the motivation. With government targeting watch lists, they use the guise of national security, social control, and retaliation, revenge. And so many of you have spoken out that after you divorced your police officer husband or military husband, whatever, you got placed on the watch list because they're all in on it. Now, controlling wealthy parents, instead, they may control over their legacy, the image, personal insecurities, because they know the child really well. So they may try to control an inheritance in the future. Now, some of the methods that the government targets watch-listed people is surveillance, disruption, covert harassment. Wealthy parents, they will manipulate, they'll financially control, and they use the emotional leverage because they know their adult child since birth. They may use siblings to participate, especially in a narcissistic family. And who are the actors involved? So, if you're on a government targeting watch list, state agencies, cities, private contractors, local informants, your rat snitches, your neighbors and stuff. With wealthy parents, it'll be family, lawyers, therapists, trustees, and private networks. And as far as transparency, the government watch list, they're very secretive. There's so little recourse because there's an octopus with tentacles everywhere. Now, with regard to controlling wealthy parents, they are sometimes private, but it's emotionally visible to the individual. The individual knows what's going on, knows who the offenders are. It's mommy, it's daddy, it's brother, it's mommy's lawyer, it's, whatever. And as far as accountability, when you're on a government watch list, we all know there's no due process. It's nearly impossible to challenge because they'll always tell you in the name of national security they can't confirm or deny anything. But when you've got controlling wealthy parents, it is infinitely easier to expose through legal or therapeutic channels because you know who all the players are. So I wanted to find out who, if there were public lawsuits about parents trying to control their adult children through coercive techniques, fraudulent psychiatric claims, attempts to destroy business, and so we've got the Britney Spears conservative case, 2008 to 2021. So what happened? After Britney had a mental health crisis in 2008, I can't stand that word, mental health. She had an emotional break, okay? She was placed under conservatorship, controlled by her father, Jamie Spears. It still baffles the mind because despite working full-time, touring, recording, performing, Britney had zero legal control over her finances, medical care, or personal decisions. So how is that possible when she's working and touring and bringing in millions of dollars, right? She was allegedly forced to take psychiatric medicine, perform against her will, and was denied basic rights like driving or removing her birth control. Craziness. So this is the pure abuse of legal conservatorship system. Fraudulent psychiatric narratives used to justify long-term control. Massive, this is the key, massive financial benefit. Because Jamie earned her father over $6 million directly from Brittany, his daughter. All of her hard work he stole. There was public pressure, legal advocacy, and whistleblowers, like her court-appointed attorney and former security staff, helped to end it. And I'm going to add one more person, because I watch her channel, BJ Investigates. She is an attorney, or she's given up practicing law in Princeton, New Jersey, and she did an in-depth deep dive onto the people that were controlling Britney Spears' money. Might want to check that out. Then there's Peter Max, the famous pop artist. He had ongoing guardianship battles. He was a wealthy artist. He was placed under court-appointed guardianship, allegedly initiated by individuals with ties to powerful legal figures. This is a case of where his art his art was revealing things that other people did not want revealed, okay? So his daughter, Libra Max, don't you love that? Libra Max, claimed in court that he was isolated from his family and controlled via fraudulent psychiatric claims of coercion. They wanted to take him out of business. It's envy, jealousy, and greed. They just wanted him to stop creating. The Guardians allegedly sold, see, here we go, they sold or mismanaged Max's art and finances without his or his family's consent. I mean, that is so illegal. It shows how legal guardianship can be misused to isolate and extract assets. The tactics involved weaponized psychiatric claims and legal maneuvering. Public outcry via hashtag #FreePeterMax campaign helped draw attention. Then there was the socialite philanthropist, Brooke Astor. This was an elder abuse case. Brooke Astor's son, Anthony Marshall, was convicted of stealing millions from her estate while she was mentally incapacitated. Allegations including he forged documents, he manipulated her into changing her will, and then neglected her care. He wanted her to disappear. Although involving an elder rather than a young adult, it shows how powerful families can weaponize, control, isolate, and financially abuse their kin. This was estate and legal manipulation at its core. And then, I don't know if you remember Aaron Carter. You know, his brother was one of the Backstreet guys. Alleged conservative threat, 2019, 2021. The late singer Aaron Carter spoke out before his death about alleged efforts by family members to force a conservatorship on him. They wanted his money. He claimed false psychiatric evaluations were being pushed and that his financial independence and property were targeted. Carter tried to go public with documents and videos showing erratic behavior and how others were weaponizing that against him. It illustrates that these modern strategies, by capturing someone's public image, you know, let's say he's out with his friends and he's drinking too much, right? That happens. And then the paparazzi photographing him and then publicizing it to gain legal or financial power over him. And it shows how families sometimes threaten a conservatorship to control adult children's choices, especially around business or romantic partners. So what are the legal patterns in these cases? There's the involuntary psychiatric evaluation, also known as 5150 holds. They're often used as a gateway to conservatorship or a power of attorney. The power of attorney abuse, controlling a person's access to attorneys, finances, and therapists. Restraining orders are sometimes filed fraudulently against supportive friends or romantic partners to isolate the adult child. Then, of course, there are the smear campaigns. This is public or legal claims about, somebody's mentally unstable to undermine credibility. Meanwhile, these are all things that people slander about other people, and there's no documentation of proof. They're people just spewing falsehoods. They will attempt to sabotage business or your reputation, disrupting or discrediting the person's work to justify intervention or conservatorship. And some other tools of coercion are they may use private security firms hired to monitor or intimidate. They may payroll a therapist or a psychiatrist to testify in favor of the parent. And they'll do that also when they're trying to take your rights as a parent away from your children, young children. They use legal guardianships as loopholes to strip rights. They have NDAs and isolation to suppress whistleblowers in the family or inner circle. So they'll have family members sign these agreements that they will not speak out in favor of their sibling or cousin or whatever it is. So these kinds of tactics, like fraudulently assigned psychiatric labels, isolation, property interference, community harassment, it might be worth building documentation and looking at civil rights, elder abuse, or civil RICO angles to prosecute these claims. So I hope you were able to see now the difference between being placed on a watch list. When you're placed on a watch list, you are nominated literally by two people. It could be for any stupid thing, like, the little image that I had earlier about I'm watch listed because I pissed off the neighbor's dog, right? It doesn't take much. It's all illegal. It's all a lie. It's all fraudulent. But it's a very different way of being targeted than being controlled by wealthy parents. There's a huge difference. Okay, and you need to differentiate the types of targeting. And there are other kinds of targeting where sometimes an ex-husband or a wife or whatever, who may be wealthy, is not placing you on a watch list. But they'll hire private security firms. It's all private. You're not on a watch list, but to go and harass a former spouse. And there was one like this, where the wife was able to hire a private detective, track it back to 3 retired police officers, I think it was in Canada, and ended up going to prison. So in the end, it backfires. And this is why, this is another example of how when your targeting is privately funded, like through family, an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, compared to the government, Gov't Watchlist is very different. It's very difficult to prosecute because there's nobody in the government that's going to come forward and say, oh, yes, your name's on the list. Yes, and you know what? We gave it to the fusion centers, and we gave it to Infraguard in New Jersey and Kentucky. We gave it to all of your neighbors. Yes, we did. We spread lies. And yes, you did see those men in the cheap suits on Sutton Drive in 2019 going door to door to your neighbors. Yes, those were our guys. And yes, we sent them there. And yes, what about that guy with the gray hair who looked like a CIA guy or an FBI guy in that huge vehicle the name is Escalade in his black Escalade following me to Wegmans and around the block. This is not family stuff. This is government watch listing stuff. And so you need to understand the difference here. So I hope you got something out of this. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. And I look forward to talking to you soon.